Morning, sir. This is Purushottam.
Can I get your resume?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Purushottam Mukhandi, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Of course. Firstly, thanks for giving this opportunity. And this is M. Purushottam, and I am coming from Sururpeta, Andhra Pradesh. And I have completed my graduation in Mechanical Stream 2020 and Diploma in Mechanical 2017 and SSC in 2000 completed in 2014. After completion of my graduation, I have joined in course set related jobs, which is firstly I have joined in Brakes India Private Limited, which is a mechanical quality supervisor. After that, I have joined in Bharti International Private Limited. In that, I have joined as an industrial engineer. After completion of that, I have switched my career to software field. In that, I have learned the .NET technologies. In the front end, I have learned HTML and CSS. In the back end, C# and SQL Server. And of course, I have learned the web server technology, which is ASP and ADO.NET. And my strength is I am continuous learner. And my hobbies are reading books. That's it.
Nice. So I just want to go to technical.
Okay, sir.
What is C Sharp?
C# is a programming language which is firstly introduced by Microsoft in 2008. And C# will support multiple languages. We can write in Java, various languages. It is a fully object-oriented language. Firstly, we started with the C language. For security and reusability, we are using the C# programming language.
So what is C Sharp and what exactly object-oriented programming language?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What exactly OOPS means?
Object-oriented language, we have 4 conditions in that, which is encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, and abstraction. And what is polymorphism means we can from input we can get the various outputs. In that we have method overriding and method overloading. In this, what is method overloading, which means we have changed the parameters. We can see that console.writeLine. In that we have 16 plus method overloading methods are there. When we come to method overriding, the same method name will be there, and we can write the method override. When if you want to write the method overriding, we need to be a parent-child relations. For that we use inheritance. In terms of what is inheritance means, which is parent-child relation. So whatever the class methods are there in parent class, we can access with the child class. And parent cannot access the child class methods, but child class can access the parent class methods. I will talk about interface. Firstly, the client and the developer, there will be an agreement which is called as interface. Whatever the client will ask, the methods, functions we need, that we need to be developed with the help of interface. In the interface, we have only the abstract methods. Whatever the abstract methods are there in interface, we need to be override. We need to inherit in abstract class. In abstract class, there will be an implemented and non-implemented methods. Whatever non-implemented methods in abstract class, which will be right in the base class. By that we will complete that. After that, encapsulation. It will give the access to the from one class to another class. If you want to access from one project to another project, we will use the public access modifier. With the help of this public access modifier, we can access from one class to another class. If it is private, we will access within the class only. For that purpose, we will use the encapsulation.
Oh,
that's it.
Very nice. Now, what is ASP.NET?
ASP.NET is a server-side technology. With the help of ASP.NET, we will develop the web pages. But if what is about web pages, which means we will write a collection of programs. By that, we will develop the web page.
Controls under ASP.NET?
Validation controls means whatever the client will enter in the control box, we need to be validate if it is in our format or not. For that, we will use the validation. In that validation, we have a regular expression validation and a required field validator and a range field validator and so on. Right?
So, what exactly required field validator means? When we go for required field validator?
Required field validator. Required field validator, which is in our current format only. If we want to use the mail ID, if it exactly they have entered that the rate, in that case, we will use the required field validator.
What is state management in ASP.NET?
State management technique, which means which will use from login and user password. In that case, we will use the state management techniques. Whatever the values entered by the client, which will transfer to the other page. In that case, it will maintain the states. Presently, if we have state management, there are server side state management is in that we have session state and application state. That session state with the different session ID with different web pages we can access. But if you have different session ID, we cannot use session application. In the application state, we can access different sessions with different session IDs. In that case, we will use application state.
Yes. What is SQL Server?
SQL Server, which is a database, or whatever the client will enter in our controls in the web form, which will be stored on SQL state, SQL Server, like with the help of tables, which is a combination of rows and columns. With the help of that, the data will be stored in SQL Server. If you want to retrieve that, we will use the ADO.NET.
So what is ADO.NET?
ADO.NET is a communication barrier between the front and back end. With the help of a C# language, we will communicate with the SQL Server. With the C# language, we will write code. With the C# language, we will write code and communicate with the SQL Server with the ADO.NET classes, whatever the classes available in ADO.NET.
Exactly. So what are ADO.NET classes like SQL connection?
We have SQL connections, SQL command, SQL data reader, and SQL data adapter. These are the classes we will use for connecting the SQL data.
When we will use dataset?
Dataset. In dataset, we will use when we use a disconnection oriented approach, we will use the dataset. If we don't have the connection with the data backend SQL server, whatever the data which I will retrieve from the SQL server, we will store in the dataset, and the dataset will get the data.
So what is the data binding controls like grid?
Like a grid view.
Yes.
In the grid view, we don't need to create the table, especially for whatever the data which is we need to retrieve from the SQL server. If you simply write a asp.gridview, we'll retrieve the data, and it automatically adjusts the columns and rows, whatever the data in SQL server. It will display it.
What are joins in SQL?
Joins we will use, we need to retrieve the common data from multiple tables. We will use the joins. In that we have inner join, outer join, and cross join. In that outer join we have a full outer join, or right outer join, left outer join. In the left outer join we have whatever the same elements, same common elements will be retrieved from the right column, right table. Whatever the data which you have in left column, we will left table fully it will retrieve the data. In that case, we will use the left outer join. If it is right, it is quite opposite. Full outer join, which will totally whatever the records are there from this table, it will match both the records and will display.
What is value types and difference types in C#?
So value type is in a fixed length, and the reference type is a variable length. Value types we have data types like int, float, like that, and reference type which has object and string.
Okay.
Yes.
What are operators?
Operators, we have arithmetic operators, binary operators. Basically, if you want to apply the conditions, you will use operators in the if-else conditions like that.
Yes. What are conditional statements?
Condition statement is in that we have two types, which is loops and if-else conditions. We have step-by-step process. We will check whatever if our condition is satisfied, it will not go to the next step. If it is not satisfied, it will go to the step-by-step process, and it will check all conditions until it verifies. If it is loop, it is a continuous iteration process. Yes, without writing multiple times. If you apply the loops, it will continuously iterate until our conditions get satisfied.
Yes. What is an array?
Array, with a single variable we can store the multiple values. If you want to, it is applicable for a single data type. For if for example int x is equal to 10, in that we need to apply 10 values like that. We need to write different variables. Instead of that, we will use the array with a single data type. If it is a common data type will be there, in that case we will use the array.
Yeah. What is client-side technologies?
Client-side technology is a JavaScript. Whatever the client will enter, the validations will be done in system only. If it is in server side, whatever he entered the data, that will go to the server and it will validate there and will come back again. In the server side, we will use ASP. If it is client side, we need to use JavaScript.
Which one is faster? Is client side or server side?
Client side will faster, sir, because it is a traffic problem will get in a server side technology.
Yes. You have any questions?
I will need to know about mock interview ratings.
Yeah, it's good. You gave technically strong.
Yes,
It's very nice to have an interview with you. Okay.
thanks.